Just a reminder before today's programme that if you're new to cassettes or are interested in learning about more, then check out our beginner's guide to cassette tapes. Also, if you're into collecting cassettes and different artists and genres, then check out our huge cassette haul that we did a while back, where we took a look at a haul of over 200 tapes. And now, here on AMTV, it's time for the beginning of a very special season.
Hello, it's Martyn here, and welcome to the first day of Walkman Week.
Hi there guys, it's Martyn here, and welcome to the first in a new series. This is Walkman Week, so for this week, each day I'm going to be taking you through a different Walkman that I own, just looking at it, looking at what features it has, and just a bit about each model. And I thought I'd kick it off with the very first one that I've picked up since I started getting back into cassettes in general. Now, for those of you who saw my video last year about a beginner's guide to cassettes, you will have seen this, but this is my Sony Walkman WM-F1 model, the F standing for FM stereo, I imagine. So there's the front, you can see it says FM stereo with the nice F1. This is a big, bulky, chunky piece of kit, looking all around it there. So this came out around 1981, I believe. So this is in the very early days of the Sony Walkman. The first Walkman model only came out in 1979, and I believe this was the first model to include a radio in it as well. The corners have been a bit worn away just over time, but that's general wear and tear, and I used this thing like mad this past year. This has been my prime way to play cassettes for the past year until I started getting other models, and on the whole it's been quite a gem to use. Now let's take a look at this thing on the body. So here is the FM on the top, so it's got the radio, you can tune it, anything from like the low or mid 80s to 108 FM on the megahertz thing there. You've got a light for battery, so when you play it, there you go, the battery light comes on. That'll dim over time to let you know how much battery you've roughly got left. And the FM stereo, that one's odd because when you play the radio it doesn't always come on. Look, so I'll turn it on to radio, the battery's there. FM stereo only seems to come on at certain times, like when you find a really clear signal. It's not coming on now, but it does work. You got your tuning wheel, you've got your volume, and I always appreciate Walkmans that have this where the numbers are on the volume wheel. It goes up to 10, just so you've got an idea of roughly where you want to set it if you find a favourite. And funnily enough, it has two headphone jacks, A and B. In the early days of the Walkman, it seems Sony were trying to encourage like two people to listen together on one of these things, maybe if you were in a car or a train, which is actually a neat idea. On the back it has its belt clip, which is really useful, so you can hook it onto your trousers or whatever might suit, because of course this is quite a chunky beast and you're probably not likely going to fit this hole in your pocket, so it's good that it's got its belt clip there. It's also got hooks if you wanted to apply a lanyard to it. I don't have a lanyard myself, I prefer my Walkman, if possible, to have a belt clip. The battery compartment is here, and if we just move that away, this thing is powered by 4 AA batteries, so make sure you've got a stock of those. In terms of its like how long it lasts, I don't have the official manual, but this has always been good to me in terms of the hours. I'd say this lasts at least 10 hours, if not more, on 4 AA batteries. It's quite a efficient beast, if you like. And the radio, I think if you just use the radio, it would last even longer. So great battery life consumption, but of course you've got your buttons here. So these are nice metal buttons. The shell is plastic, but these are nice metal buttons that have this satisfying click. Just listen. Oh man, that just feels so good. So you've got your play, you've got your rewind and fast forward, all of which work. You've got your stop, which also serves as the eject buttons. I'll show you how that works soon. And you've also got a switch for normal tape, type 1 tape, or metal tape, or type 2 and 4 tape. Sometimes you've got to tell the difference. Sometimes the information's on the cassette or the casing. FM stereo cassette player WM-F1 with the Sony logo, and you've got some of the information on it there. It's model number. This was made, of course, in Japan. Okay, so let's take a look at the innards of this thing. So you open it up. It's pretty standard to any cassette player, really. Your cassette goes in there. It's got a head, pinch roller. Now, I'm going to show you a tape in it. I've actually got a Walkman demonstration tape here from Sony. This features, what's this, a Ghana Ryo Kawasaki and the Golden Dragon. Okay, so obviously this is for demonstration purposes. So what you do is, for anyone, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar, but for those who aren't, you take your cassette like this, you put it in there, you make sure that obviously the two holes go in there, etc. And once it's locked and loaded, this isn't at the start of the tape. How do you tell? Well, if a tape has this sort of brown color, that means that's like the track itself. What you want to do is rewind this till you get a clear or colored strip of tape. So I'll show you. So we hit, I'm going to angle this down. There you go. So we hit rewind. It takes its time a little bit. So rewinds, goes all the way back to the beginning. And once you're there, hit stop. And then there's a jet feature. So you hit once to stop and then pops up like that. Pretty cool. Now this one actually doesn't have a colored strip, it seems. Although if you look in there, there's no more tape on that reel. But most cases they'll have either a piece of clear or a red, yellow, just like a colored piece of strip. So you put that in there, thumb that down, press play, and you can see the cogs whirring there and your battery light is on. Now the reason why you can't hear any music is because a lot of the older Walkmans don't have external speakers. The only way you're going to hear sound off this thing is if you plug in a set of headphones. What I'm going to try and do is plug into a boombox sort of device so you can get an example of the sound you can get off this Sony Walkman F1 model. Obviously, when you've had enough of whatever you're listening to or you need to stop, you just hit stop, everything stops there, and if you need to remove your tape, obviously, stop again, take it out, flip it over to side B on the demonstration tape. See, and you can write your own things there, that's cool. Should do a video on the actual tapes at some point, shouldn't I? But this is Walkman Week. Speaking of Walkman Week though, these demonstration tapes, I'm not sure, it says not for sale, so obviously this never came bundled with any units. I got this, well, as part of one of the Walkmans you'll see this week actually, but I think this is pretty cool to have a demonstration tape for a Walkman. What else is there to say about the F1? Well, where are you going to find it? I found mine on eBay. As I said, I bought it last year, about, well, this time last year, roughly. And I think I actually got pretty lucky because Walkmans seem to be getting sort of more sought after by people and collectors and whatnot. So I'd say you're going to be looking anywhere now from between, at the lowest, maybe 30 to about £100 for this thing. I paid about 50. So I think I seem to get in the Walkman market at quite a good time. Obviously, when you're buying this, a few things you want to watch out for. Being as this is an old machine, this is nearly 40 years old, ideally make sure the seller, if they've mentioned it, has fitted new belts. Because what happens is, for anyone who doesn't know, right, the belt is what moves or helps move the cassette around, but they're just made of rubber. So over time, they stretch, they get loose, and they need replacing. And if you're picking up a player like this and that hasn't been done, it's more than likely that that belt is going to be worn, and you're not going to get good sound. If you've got the technical know-how, great, do it yourself by all means. But often I try and buy from sellers where they say belts have recently been fitted or they've been able to do it themselves. Some people sell these models for parts only, so they'll say the radio works but the cassette doesn't work, or the cassette works but the radio doesn't, etc, etc. That's up to you. Again, I personally prefer to buy models that work throughout. I mean, yes, it's arguably a bit more expensive that way, but if you're not as technically gifted as some people, I mean, I'm not, I couldn't take one of these things apart and do, I can change a belt, but I can't do, like, you know, technical reworkings. So just always read the descriptions on eBay and stuff like that. I know a lot of you probably do, but it's so easy to get caught out. But this thing is great. It's sturdy. It doesn't make that much noise really when you're out in public on its motor, which is more than I can say for some other Walkmans. But it's a really nice piece of kit. The battery life lasts a long time. The sound quality is great. It's relatively easy to maintain. When you clean in the head of this thing, which is just that bit there, you can, you know, press play. It's very easy to access with a cotton swab. You can dab it all you need to, if that makes sense. It's just a very accessible piece of kit, I find. And, you know, for something that's nearly 40 years old, it just shows the craftsmanship behind it. Really nice model. But that, of course, is just the first installment of Walkman Week. Over the next few days, you're going to be seeing different kinds of Walkman that I've got and how I think they compare to this, and just my thoughts on them in general. But thank you very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments, do you own this model of Walkman, the F1? If so, what do you think of it? But also let me know in the comments, what Sony Walkmans do you have, if any? Do you have one with a radio? Do you have a standard one? Do you have one with some of the cool features that they came up with, like auto reverse, mega bass, groove, Dolby noise reduction? That's the final thing I'll say that I forgot to mention. This doesn't have any extra bells and whistles. There's no Dolby noise reduction. There's no mega bass. There's nothing like that. But this, again, is the very early days of Walkman. But all that aside, considering this is the early days, they still did a pretty good job with this one. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you are brand new. Leave a like on the video. And until the next one, I will see you guys next time. Well, that does bring us to a close this evening on AMTV. We do hope you enjoyed the programme, and please do keep your eyes open for brand new content that will be coming to you soon. Until then, have a very good week, and we hope that you join us again soon. Good night.